Hey guys, how you doing? Okay, I've been looking over the work that you've been doing, and we're now at the stage where we should move on to thrashing out the model. Now, what I've done is I've recorded a first segment that kind of goes with this. That is me creating a tram just to show you how I was working from my own concepts in the first place. You should realise by now that the concepts that I asked you to draw out were mainly so that you could understand the shapes that things are made out of. There's been some good concepts out there, and what I need you to do now is really to kind of focus on building the rough shapes of what it is you're making, yeah? Um, Now, I know some of these shapes are quite complicated, so we're moving into an area now where if you think you're going to need specific help, now's the time to tell me, and I can create, a bit of video tutorial that will help you with a specific part, or I can create, a one-to-one class for like 15, 20 minutes or anything along those lines, just to try and get you dug out and, get you moving. It's important, though, to get moving, because now is the time that you're going to start seeing results. At first, things are going to be a bit wonky, but you'll get results fast. Now, for example, with the ladder chassis, okay, I don't want to see an absolute ton load of detail, because you don't need to make a ton load of detail yet. What you need to do is get the dimensions correct. Once you've got the dimensions correct, then we can move on to getting the ton loads of details. But I want you to make sure that you've got things like the ladder struts in the right positions, whatever they may be. Okay. And then I want you to consider, where the spring areas are going to be or whatever. Alright, I mean, this is really rough, but I'm kind of just throwing it out here for you. Okay. So, ladder chassis, dude, I want you to get your ladder chassis done. Not as roughly as this. I want you to get the parts lined up, and I want you to get them to the right size. And I want all the various parts that are going to represent the different parts of your model. Now, don't forget, of course, we can use extended and compound primitives. Let's have a look. Or even dynamics objects in your case would probably help, such as the spring. I mean, I use that an awful lot, and it's very useful. And for you, it's going to be invaluable for representing things like the suspension system, which I believe is spring-driven on these anyway. So, if you can get cracking with that, I want the basic frame thrown up. Now then, for you other guys who are doing stuff, Space Marine guy, you've got a helmet to do, okay? Now, I want you to look at that helmet carefully and look at what you've drawn, because the helmet isn't made out of one piece of moulded plastic, any more than most motorcycle helmets are made out of one piece of moulded plastic. You're going to have things like, the front visor, you're going to have the sockets where the eye parts go in, you've got the nose grills and all those different parts. I know you became aware of those whilst you've been drawing it, I've heard your comments. Okay, now for the guy doing the head of, let me think, it was Iron Man. Now this is a panel job, okay? Iron Man was built out of lots and lots of little panels, so the easiest thing to do for you to create your basic primitive is going to be to start off with something like a very simple sphere, okay, and reduce down the segments. You really only want a few segments like that. And I'm going to turn it off realistic mode because it should probably just be in shaded. There we go. Okay, and then what I want you to do is kind of pull this to the shape that you're going to need for the head. Just kind of mess around with it, okay? Now, heads aren't easy. Look in the mirror to get a rough idea of the shape of your own head as well. I'm not trying to sound patronising, seriously, that's the best way of kind of doing that. Okay, so all I'm doing is just slowly kind of coming out with this shape and putting a lot of verts. And once we've got this rounded head shape here, do the same again down here. A little bit of pinching comes in on here. Okay, now the reason we've done that is because we can now separate this off into plate areas once we've kind of smoothed it down, yeah? So what you're going to do then is just quickly top and tail this, because I always hate it when you've got it coming to a sharp point. I'll just chamfer it. There we go. Take this part off. Now the head's going to be symmetrical, because in this kind of case robot heads usually are, so just work on one side for the moment if you want, and then stick symmetry on. And start separating it off into parts. Now, for example, you're going to have this part here, then this part here. Okay, and watch the film a few times just so you can see how Tony Stark kind of has his helmet set up, yeah? Now if you notice, go into this part here and use the swift loop just along here. I'm just going to reposition this vert. Okay, because it's very much kind of almost like a steampunk design, really, isn't it? Okay, change this from group to local normal. Bring that down a little bit there. Okay, and basically just build up your plates like this for the various parts, okay? Whilst at the same time kind of moulding it to your sketch. Now you'll know your sketch more intimately than I do. However, what you want to do is kind of get the polygons you've got here to conform as it's more of an organic mechanical shape. Yeah? And then you can start throwing in the details. Insect dude. You can probably start off really with spheres, yeah? In the same way that I just recommended for power suit. Now, I'll just turn the angle here. What I would do personally in this case is start arranging the parts that you're going to be using. I.e. thorax and so forth. And just get them to the right kind of scale and shape. You can either use FFDs or you can use tapers or you can use whatever you like, really. I always find taper works quite well in this instance. There we go. And then up here, this would be a slightly smaller piece, but broader. And angle down like this. Now, once you've done this, okay, and created the various parts for this, what I want you to then do is start breaking your shape, okay? Because you have to consider areas where it's going to be connected together. So I'm going to take out parts, for example, here and here. And then here perhaps we can take out parts. And here. Whilst still maintaining the shape, which is important because obviously you want to maintain the shape of this. Yeah? So once we've got that, then you can start refining these edges a little bit more, just to kind of get the exact thing that you want. Just elongate this, like so. Or whatever, you see. Because what you're building now is you're building the basic structure of the carapace, which we can then go back and detail more and more and more later. Because what we'll eventually do is we'll break this down into segments, and we can have like little parts that clip it together and things like that. Okay. Insane person who wants to do General Grievous. You've watched the film already, you've got the pictures already, you've started sketching out how the parts go, that's great. What I want you to do now is start building the parts that you need roughly, okay? Now, the best thing to do would be, if I take this part here as an example, as you know, Grievous's feet are made out of lots and lots of little bits. So, what you want to do is start just creating the little bits they're made out of. For example, you know, he's made out of pieces that are kind of this shape, and so on. And just start kind of throwing it together, okay, so that you're getting kind of your model starting to get some sort of a shape together, yeah? I mean, this isn't the overall shape of Grievous, but he's made from this kind of thing, lots and lots of little disparate kind of parts and straight edges and things all kind of thrown together with little bits coming off it and stuff. Okay, so what I want you to do is basically assemble the leg parts for him in the same way as I've shown for the other guys, and in the same way that I showed that I was doing for that kind of underground train that I was working on, okay? Put them in the logical place. If you're not exactly sure of the right place, go back, watch a couple of clips of General Grievous again so you get the idea. Now then, if there's anyone I've missed, you can shout at me. That's not a problem. What I want you to do is get the model done roughly for this piece, okay? And I want you to be happy with it, because if you're happy with it, then it's more likely I'm going to be happy with it too. You want to get the proportions correct. You're going to know if the proportions aren't correct, okay? However, if you're not quite used to working these things out, I'm quite happy to help, don't worry, okay? I will be around, I'll be checking in on your threads. What I want you to do though, like I say, is make up the rough model, get the pieces in the right place, get the scales right, get everything else right. Don't connect anything together, okay? What I mean by that is don't make any hierarchies or things like that. We don't need them at the moment. What I need you to do is just do this part. In addition to that, go back to your concepts, okay? Now, some of you guys obviously have been working on just the small parts, for example the ladder chassis, things like that. What I want in addition now is I want the wheel axles if you're doing the car. For Grievous now I want the lower legs drawn out. For the Space Marines I would greatly appreciate seeing the upper torso and possibly the lower torso coming into view. Let me think now. I better go and plod off to the thread to make sure. Everyone, right, let's see. I think I've talked to you. Don't worry about this. Lovely. Yeah, Nate, I really like your sketches, by the way. So get on with doing his leg as well. Let's have a look. Generalist, obviously with your army ant robot, I want you to look at the legs. It's time to add some legs to that carapace. I'll just check that you haven't, just to be on the safe side. You may have posted in the 5 seconds since I last looked. Nope, but I do like that carapace a lot, and it's going to look absolutely bitching. Okay, so work out the legs, and if you're having wings, it's up to you, but I'd like you to study some different kind of wing designs, and I want that carapace built out. Rec, you know what I want you to do? Al, again, going to look at your thread. You want to make a bitching robot, Al, so you know what to do. Sorry, scratching myself there. I can see your sketch here. I want you to work on that sketch a bit, because you need to kind of add in a bit more idea of how the knees are going to work and stuff, yeah? I can see the knees are kind of cylinder driven and piston driven. Draw it in from the side as well so we can see how exactly it's going to be ambulatory, if you know what I mean. Who else? Let's see. Farstorm, I've told you what I'd like you to do, of course. Anyone else? No, that should do it. Well, Callow, let's just check yours, Callow. Callow, you're coming across really well, by the way. I really love that sketch work you've been doing. And the boots, don't worry about the boots. They're not as hard as you think. I've got to say, I really, really like the concept work you're doing here, though, for your suit. I think the way that you seem to understand your anatomy, you're not going to have much of a problem at all cracking out that head. I mean, if I look at this shape here, okay, I'll just pull it across, because I know you've always had a few kind of issues with the confidence work, but look at the shapes here. You can see, almost see where the polygons are going to be, okay? You've got the brow ridge there, you've got the eye there, you've got this flat part here that comes down to the mouth, and then you've got the chin. And I mean, if we look over here, you've drawn it from the side so you can see the shape. You've got the earpiece here, and you can see all the different panels, okay? I've explained that I want your head broken down into the different parts. If you get time, you can start on the chest, but the head's the important part. I think once you get that out of the way, you're going to feel a lot better about your model anyway. And I certainly think you've got the skills to pull this off, so don't worry. That foot is absolutely beastly, isn't it? And honestly, it's not hard. Promise. Okay, so you got your assignments. Today is Wednesday. Slightly later than I promised, but unfortunately my middle son broke his arm and it's been absolutely hell, so I do apologise. If we have to go over in the course, we'll go over in the course, don't worry. Right, so let's go for a Monday. That will give you 5 days, okay? Problems, like I say, email me. You shouldn't have too many problems, but if you need a specific tutorial knocking up as part of this set, go for it, okay? And I really look forward to seeing your progress in the thread.